Good evening, everyone. This is Robert. RJL Net presents the 1983 Season Review and Reveal Show. Guys, that was a fun season to do. 1983 was a blast. It could have. I'm really weird how the season actually turned out. How we did this season this time, starting with Inside Pitch and then moving to Fall Classic with it. So it really is interesting how 1983 actually came about. So 1983 is in the books. It will now go in as a completed season. And tonight, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all the games played, the regular season games and the opening, and take a look at the standings, how it worked out for the 1983 season. And then we're going to go ahead and tally up the votes, and which pretty much already did. And we'll see how many dice each of the new seasons will get to roll before we decide on what the next one will be. So 1983 was fun, and it's good to see all you guys, Davo9, Jeremy, Ron, and David. Good to see you all so far, and I know more people will join in later. But this was a really interesting season. 1983, I'm actually kind of surprised that this season was actually got it. Remember, 1990 actually had the most votes, but the dice went for 83, which is fine. And I told you guys I really don't care which season we're going to do. So let's take a look at how 1983 went. The first thing we're going to do this time is going to take a look at the standings. And we're just going to go through the standings first. Good to see everybody here. 1983. Of course, everybody knows that in the historical 1983 season, the Baltimore Orioles played the Philadelphia Phillies in that World Series, with the Orioles winning it. Very interesting how this season got out to a start. Let's take a look here. Page 1 of the standings. It was the Detroit Tigers who actually got out, and the Yankees got out to a quick start. The Yankees dominated FastScore pretty much throughout the entire year. The Yankees got out to a 23-13 start. The Tigers were in second at 21-12. And then the Milwaukee Brewers and the Toronto Blue Jays got 20 wins. The National League, and then, of course, the American League West, it was the Texas Rangers getting out to a quick 20 wins. The Athletics were at 19 wins, and the White Sox actually started with a under 500 for the first page. They were 15-18. They got out to a slow. They got to a slow start. So that was a slow start here. So actually, the Rangers led the American League West after the first page. In the National League, it was a mess in the National League East after the first page, first round, I guess you could say, for page if you want. The Expos were at 500, but everybody else was right below it, 15. The Mets actually got out to a 15-18 start. They were horrible in 83. The Phillies and the Pirates were all under, and the Cardinals were under 500. The National League West was kind of ugly, and the National League East. National League West, the Braves and the Dodgers got out to a quick start with 21 wins. The Padres and the Giants were 20 wins each. Then the Astros and the Reds, the National League West, got out to a nothing's. I'm just going through the records right now. Sports Time Machine. I'm going through the season standings, then we'll go through the games. Round 2, or page 2. The Detroit Tigers actually took over first in the American League East. They had 42 wins. The Yankees were right behind them. Toronto and Baltimore staying with them at 35 wins. Milwaukee was there. The Boston Red Sox they got out to a horrible start. Boston at one point was 24-37. They made a comeback later, though. The Indians were pretty much where they were at. And, in the American League West, the Texas Rangers actually took over first place after the second round. They were 34-27. And the White Sox made a start. So they were 15-18 at the start of this round. Then they came all the way up to 33-28. And so far, FastScore actually agreed that the White Sox would be near the top, and they pretty much were. The Royals were only 3 games under 500. Seattle actually wasn't too bad. Seattle, but then they fell down. So that's how it went in the American League. National League in round 2, the Montreal Expos took over first place in the National League East and pretty much held on to it the rest of the way. The Mets the 1983 Mets, as I said, were horrible. They were at one point 1 game under 500, and I thought maybe, just maybe at this point, maybe my Mets could probably surprise, but nah, they fell apart as they were supposed to because the 83 Mets were terrible. The Phillies, they were now above 500. They were right in there. Cubs and the Mets there, and the Cardinals. There's your Pirates. They were in last, but they wouldn't stay there long. The American League West, the Atlanta Braves took over first at 35-28, and they pretty much would jaunt back and forth. But the Braves, of course, we know would win this division in my replay. The Dodgers were in second. The Padres and the Giants were the Padres and Giants, and even the Reds were over 2 games over 500 at this stage here. The Reds were right there. So you had the Braves, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants, and the Reds, the Astros bringing up the rear. Page 3 or round 3 in the American League East, the Yankees took over the lead. They were 57-31. FastScore loved the Yankees. They really did. They really loved the Yankees this year, and the Yankees would go on to pretty much win the division. Of course, we know that. The Tigers were in second at the time. The Blue Jays at 51 wins. Baltimore, Milwaukee. I thought sooner or later Baltimore would climb up the ladder and maybe take over the division, but the Yankees were just too far ahead. And then on this round, here is where the White Sox literally took over everything. The White Sox were 33-28, and they have a big streak on this page. They go from 33-28 to 53-36. The White Sox would then grab the American League West and pretty much hold on to it for the rest of the year. The California Angels had 45 wins, followed by the Rangers and the Athletics. Kansas City, Seattle, and Minnesota bringing up the rear there. In the National League, now the Philadelphia Phillies started to make their move. The Expos and the Phillies led the National League East. The Cubs were at 44 wins, and now the Mets, as I said, they started at 29-30. Now they went to 40-51. Here's the big losing streak for the Mets here, and they just found and they would just wind up, at the bottom, at the cellar, like they were supposed to. Then the Cardinals were 6 games under 500. So are the Pirates. And now the Atlanta Braves go on their streak. The Braves went from 35-28 to 55-38. They only lost 10 games on this page. The Dodgers would go ahead and get up there. They had 50. They got to 50 wins. They took over second. No, the Padres actually. And the Dodgers were 49. Were third. And then the Giants were fourth. And then the Reds. The Reds were at 500 at the start of this page. They wound up 41-51. They would make a comeback, though. The Astros, the same thing, 41-50 at this page. Page number 4, the Yankees are holding on to the American League East with 75 wins. The Tigers with 70 wins, and tied with Baltimore. The Orioles would have 70 wins. They had this is where the Orioles went on their streak, 49-39. And after this page was over, 70-44. They were massive on this page as we were counting through the games. So the Orioles were now making their move up. And I told you at that time, here come the Orioles. So they were up there. But they would not win this division, of course. The Brewers were still very much 68-48. The Blue Jays, they had 66 wins, very much alive. Now Boston tried to make a move here. They were 54-62. The Cleveland Indians bringing up the rear. The White Sox cooled off a little bit. They went from 53-36 to 65-51. But the California Angels actually took over second place. At one point, they were at 500. The Rangers were at 56 wins. The Oakland Athletics were, at this point, they were 54 and 66. Surprising, because remember, all right, who got it? Who was still fighting for the round? Kansas City would be 52 wins. Seattle and Minnesota at the bottom. In the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, the Phillies at one point took over first in the National League East. They had 65 wins. The Expos had 64 wins. And the Cubs and so these two teams wound up here. And it looked like there were maybe only going to be, possibly I thought there was only going to be two teams coming out of the NL East. But then the Pirates started making their move a little bit. And so did the Cardinals. And, of course, there's the Mets, 40 and 51, and another big losing streak for the Mets here. They went from 40 and 51 to 47 and 70, and my Mets were pretty much done. As I said, that's 1983. They were bad. The Braves got a good hold on the National League West. They had 70 wins. The Padres were in second, Dodgers third. The Giants still holding on at 57 wins. Astros and the Reds are now brought up the cellar. And that is page 4. Page 5, as we now move, getting closer and closer to the pennant race. To the pennant race here, the Yankees, they have 90 wins or over 48. They were gonna win this. I really felt they were going to win this division easily. Then Baltimore made another charge. Baltimore went from 70 and 44 to 84 and 52. Tigers were there at 83 and 56. Milwaukee, Toronto still very much in it. American League West, the White Sox still in first. Texas second. California and Oakland tied for third. I'm going by wins, not by percentage points, okay, because it's going to be win, because every team played 162 games in 1983. So they just wound up, with the amount of wins. Kansas City, Minnesota actually took over sixth place, and the Mariners wound up last seventh. In the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies now had a 2-game lead on the Montreal Expos for the National League East, and everybody was behind now. The Pirates had 66 wins, the Cardinals 64 wins, the Cubs 61, and the Mets 55. Mets just right where they need to be. The Braves holding on to a 9-game lead in the National League West with 82 wins. They already qualified for a playoff but didn't clinch yet. When I say qualify means they have enough wins to get a playoff spot. Clinched means they did get a playoff spot. Remember, you have to be above 500 in order to qualify. 81 and 81 will not do it. You must be at least 82 and 80. At least in my standings. That's why some team, remember, I take the top 3 teams each division, but you got to have a winning record. You don't have a winning record, you don't belong in the playoffs. Hence the NBA, which I think with that play-in tournament stinks. So then now the Astros made a big jump. They went from 53 and 63. They had their streak. They went to 70 and 69. Suddenly the Astros were back in this race. All right. And Houston came in very quickly. And the Reds were barely holding on as well. As we go to page 6, the Yankees then they were the first team to get to 100 wins. And the Orioles were second. Detroit was in third, holding on for dear life against Milwaukee and Toronto, still chasing them. Boston and Cleveland done. The Chicago White Sox did clinch a playoff spot. Actually, they clinched the division on this page. They had 91 and 65. They did clinch the division. They were the first team really to clinch in this replay. Texas was in second. Oakland still fighting California for a shot to get to third. They were still under 500, but they still had a chance. Minnesota, Kansas City was in fifth. Minnesota sixth. Mariners seventh. In the National League, the Expos retook first place over the Phillies. The Expos went to 82 and 55 to 94 and 62. The Phillies went from 84 and 54 to 91 and 65 as we were approaching the final week of the regular season. The Pirates, they were eliminated. They had 81 losses. They were done. Cardinals done. Cubs done, Mets done. All under 500. They were eliminated. The Braves, they would pretty much clinch the National League West. It was still a pretty good logjam here. Dodgers, Padres, and Astros. The Dodgers at 79 wins. San Diego and Houston at 78. They were still alive. The Reds were 82 losses done, and Giants done. Then we went to the final week of the regular season, and the Yankees with 106 wins. They clinched the American League East. Baltimore clinches second place in the division, and because of runs scored, this is the funny thing. The Detroit Tigers win the World Series in 1983. They got in because of most runs scored over the Brewers. That is the first time I actually used that tiebreaker. The Tigers get in by the hair of their chinny chin, and they win the World Series. How about that? Toronto wound up in fifth, and Boston was in sixth. Cleveland finished last. White Sox, I said, are already clinched the division. The Rangers did get in the postseason. Oakland just fell a couple of games short. California, Kansas City, Minnesota, and Seattle were done. In the National League, the Montreal Expos won the East. They went on a 7-game winning streak. The Phillies were 91-65. The Expos were 94-62, and they didn't lose a game. They won 162, and they win the National League East. The Phillies do get in. Pirates, Cubs, Cardinals, Mets out. Braves 98-64, clinched the National League West. The Dodgers get in barely. Astros out. Padres got in barely with 82-80, and they would have their wild card. Astros, Reds, and Giants out. Yes, you missed that game there, Ben, and yet you would have been ecstatic. So that is how the 1983 season went. Let's take a look at the games we played. We started opening day with the Reds over the Braves 6-4. Let's see here. Yankees over Mariners 9-1. Now we got to look for our game of the year. Montreal beat the Dodgers 4-3. Texas over Cleveland 6-1. Cubs destroyed the Pirates 14-3. This was all inside pitch. We didn't go to Fall Classic until near the All-Star break. Yankees over the White Sox 8-2. Here's the first game of the year. Phillies over the Astros 7-5. Game of the year candidate. Phillies was a tie score. Philadelphia got a run in the 11th. So did the Astros. And the Phillies scored 2 in the top of the 13th. Pretty good game here between the Phillies and the Astros. A good matchup. But I think just a good game that went into here because they both scored runs in the 11th, 1-2, 1-2. And that's pretty much it. Very good baseball game, but nothing so special. Dodgers over Cardinals 6-0. Padres over Cubs 4-3. Milwaukee over Minnesota 10-2. And let's see here. Oakland over Boston 6-5. Reds shut out my Mets 1-0. This was me versus Brian B. He took the Reds. I took the Mets, of course. I was playing to see how it went. And heck of a game. Really good baseball game. 1-0 in favor of the Reds. At that time, the Mets were actually above 500. They were 12-10 at this time. So this was actually a feature. I call it a feature game when two teams have winning records playing each other. But I don't start calling it a feature game until around May. St. Louis over San Francisco. Detroit over Kansas City 7-1. Milwaukee beats Toronto 7-6. Good matchup. The Blue Jays get a run on the top of the 10th. Milwaukee gets 2 in the bottom on a couple of base hits here by Simmons and Ogilvy. Good game of the year. A good game of the year candidate. Good baseball game. It was all right, but I'm not going to mark that there. California, Seattle, another 1-0 game. Here's a game of the year. Toronto. This was huge. The Baltimore Orioles had a 4-1 lead going into the bottom of the ninth, and then Jesse Barfield hit a home run. Bonnell gets a double. Orge is out. Griffin walks. Mullenix is out, and then Lloyd Mosby, a 3-run bomb for Toronto to beat Baltimore 5-4. Okay, and that's a good matchup. I like that. I'm going to give that a check mark, and we'll go back to it. Philadelphia beat the Dodgers 8-4. Pittsburgh over the Reds 3-2. White Sox over Boston 9-2. Braves over Cardinals 6-4. Seattle over the Yankees, a nice win for Seattle over a Yankee team at that point was 36-15, 10-3. San Francisco over Houston 6-4. Here's another game of the year candidate: Montreal and the Mets. The Mets were only 2 games under 500. The Expos were 3 above, and the Mets won this game 7-5 on a 2-run bomb by George Foster. All right, so they were down. The game, I believe, was tied, and then at the bottom of the 9th inning, George Foster got the big home run. Tom Seaver, we used him for the time to get Seaver on the mound. Our first time with Seaver for 1983. A heck of a game, but I'll mark it as still an excellent, a good game, but not game of the year. Baltimore, Milwaukee. This here, the Orioles and the Brewers. The Brewers had a 2-0 lead. Then Baltimore got 4 runs in the top of the ninth. 3-run bomb by Len Cicada, who got the big-time home run. They would win it 4-2. And again, another good heck of a game. But again, I think just a good game. Detroit over Cleveland 2-1, as we're now in June. Oakland over Kansas City 5-4. Yankees over Boston 5-2. Angels over Texas 7-5. Minnesota shut out Toronto 7-0. San Diego over the Giants 9-4. Here's the All-Star game. The American League beat the National League 7-6. This game was a mess. This game was an absolute mess. I'm going to have to think of a different way for some of these of the All-Star games. I'm going to have to probably forget about starting lineups. So I'll get the starters in there. I'll think of a different way here for any games for the All-Star game. This was a very messy game. I think the MVP, if I'm correct, I think the MVP went to Sachs. I think we gave him the MVP, or what did it go to, or did it go to? I forget who got the MVP for the American League won it. So actually would have went to him. I don't know who I gave the MVP to, but it's all right. But I'll think of something. I'll think of a different way for substitutions for the All-Star game if we, for the next season. But there, I love doing the All-Star game. The All-Star game, by the way, will always be inside pitch, unless, of course, we have a season that inside pitch doesn't have. Cubs and the Giants 8-3 as we now start the second half. Braves over Expos 7-2. This is where I now start playing only teams that are in the playoff hunt. They have winning records, or they're within 5 games of a playoff spot. All right, so Yankees over Texas. This was a game of the year as Dave Winfield got a big-time RBI double in the bottom of the 10th inning to go ahead and get that. Good game, but nothing special. White Sox beat Toronto 4-1 in a very important matchup in the American League. Pirates over the Dodgers 5-1. California shuts out the Tigers 1-0. It was an insane walk-off finish. I think it was a walk-off or something like that. I'll go back to that real fast. Let me see. I know there was something about it. There was something. Yeah, it was a home. Yeah, it was a home run. It was a home run. And you forgive me. I forgot who hit it. I forgot who hit the home run. I have to actually replay it to find out. I would think you'd think I put the MVP on the map on this, and I didn't. I have to replay the game to find out who actually hit that bomb in the American. I remember all my games are on my channel. Every stream I do stays. So I have all these streams from 5-6 years ago, believe it or not. Again, 1-0 California. St. Louis over San Francisco, 4-3. Cubs over Phillies, 8-3. Yankees over the White Sox 2-1. Important matchup there as we now go into August. Milwaukee over Kansas City 3-2. Braves over the Dodgers 5-0. Phillies 4, Pirates 2. Tigers over the Yankees 3-2. Atlanta blew out the Padres 10-0. Some of this is now Fall Classic, and this is how you can tell between a Fall Classic score sheet and a Inside Pitch score sheet. Inside Pitch score sheets will have runners, will have range, error, arm. So this is how Chris Davis does his Inside Pitch cards: range, error, arm. All right. Greg Sovon, now Bink Stanley, who now does Fall Classic, is range, arm, error. So that's how I know this was a Fall Classic game, all right, and not an Inside Pitch game. And yes, a lot of people were saying that, hey, look, Fall Classic, 1-0, low-scoring games. But we had high-scoring games in the playoffs. So, Fall Classic is fun, guys. You got to give Fall Classic a chance. It was Gary Ward that did the walk-off. All right, thank you there, Clee. Thank you there, Tim. So, you know what? How about let's see. And I don't, but do you remember who I picked to get the MVP for the All-Star game there, Clee? Tim, did you find out who I chose? I don't think I would have chosen Gary Ward on that. I would think I probably would have chosen I don't know who I would have given it to, but we'll say Gary Ward, walk-off homer. We'll mark it here. So, all right. Montreal beats the Dodgers 10-3, and then the Tigers beat the White Sox 4-2. Atlanta over the Pirates 3-1. I like how I do my scorebook. This is just perfect for me. I mean, it's very easy for me to read. Okay, I can see everything here. I write, so I like the way I do my scorebook, and it's just perfect. And this scorebook will hold another full season easily. Let's see. So Baltimore destroyed Toronto 13-4. This was a Fall Classic destruction. Inside Pitch, Montreal over the Dodgers 6-5. Then the Yankees blew the Brewers out 13-5 in this game. And it's funny and here's the funny thing, as you choose ratings, for pitchers in Fall Classic, Vukovich was an A-rated pitcher, okay, because the Brewers won this game 6-3. I gave Vukovich an A rating. I gave Righetti a B rating, and the Yankees still blew him up. There were 8 runs here in the 5th. So even though a pitcher is rated A or B or C, so MVP was Gary Ward. All right, thank you there, Clee. Thank you there, Tim. Clee, whatever. So even though a pitcher could be rated an A or a B or a C, it really doesn't matter. I'm thinking of maybe doing something different for Fall Classic, depending on the historical score of the game that is played. So instead of rolling for pitchers, I'm for pitcher grades. Depending on the school, I'm working on something for the next season, and I really don't want to speak it right now because I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But I might be making some changes to how I grade a pitcher for pitcher grades during a regular season and the playoffs. I really should think of something else for the playoffs, and I think I have an idea. So, Milwaukee beat Detroit 2-1 in a big game. Now we're in September. The Mets beat Philadelphia. The only reason why I chose this game, I think, was one of the only games on the board, and I really wanted to get the Mets on the board one more time if possible. And the Mets actually gave Philadelphia a tough loss. Then the Astros beat the Dodgers 4-2. And here, like I said, here's Fall Classic, only a 4-2 score. And there's the Dodgers Inside Pitch 4-2 score. Another low-scoring matchup, 3-2, Texas, California. Win there. And then Detroit beats Baltimore 2-0, as the Tigers were still very much trying to get into that postseason. San Diego beat Cincinnati 6-2, and Cincinnati was pretty much they were pretty much done here, but important game for the Padres. Then the Padres beat the Astros. This was a game of the year. San Diego got a one. The Astros got 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning. They were down 8. It looks like 8-4. Then they 8 to what was it? 8 to no. What was it? 8-3. 8-3, and they got 4 in the bottom of the 8th inning. Triple, single, walk, double, single. Good game. Definitely a good matchup here, but again, nothing special. Detroit destroyed Baltimore 14-8. Big win for Jack. Big win for actually Doug Bear got the win for that one. White Sox over Oakland. We're now in the final week. White Sox over Oakland. Baltimore beat Detroit. Tough loss there for the Tigers. Game of the year here, Tiger. This was a big one here. Detroit over Milwaukee. This was the start of that series, the 3-game series between Milwaukee and Detroit. The Tigers got a run in the bottom of the 9th to keep it going, and they got a run in the 10th. It was a walk-off as Larry Herndon drew a base on balls. All right. As that allowed the Tigers to win the game in the bottom of the 10th. That is a huge win for the Tigers. Heck of a game, but I'll cross that off. And then Milwaukee comes back with a 3-0 win. All right, and then it came down to this final game. Milwaukee shut out the Tigers 4-0. But the Tigers had a 6-run. They had a 6-run aggregate lead on the Brewers. So the Brewers had to get 7 runs in order to knock Detroit out. Now, I know that might not be totally fair, but yes, Milwaukee won the game, but they did not get in. They needed to get runs. That's my first, because one of the reasons why I do it, not every team sees the board the same amount of times. So I have to use some sort of a tiebreaker. That's why runs are always a premium here. All right. So Milwaukee did win the ball game, but they lost the war. As Detroit, they needed to get a 6-0 win, and that was not going to do it. And Detroit winds up getting in the postseason, even though Milwaukee won the final game of the regular season. So that was the regular season games choices for 1983. Now let's go to the postseason. The Los Angeles Dodgers, San Diego Padres, National League wildcard playoff. Kenny Landreau, this was played with Fall Classic. Kenny Landreau hit for the cycle. So I give this an automatic double check, because that's something that's very special that happens when you roll dice. Ken Landreau got a double, single. I almost took a home run away and then got the triple. All right. Landreau got off to a very good start. All right. So Ken Landreau hit for the cycle. This gets a double check, which means all the other games now here are now out because they only got single checks. So now this is a double check for me to go back to that. All right. Definitely a game of the year because of the cycle by Landreau. Sometimes it's not about what the team does, it's what an individual does to me. Tigers went ahead and shut out the Rangers 2-0 in the American League wild card playoff, and the Tigers are in. ALDS game 1, Baltimore beat the White Sox 3-1. NLDS game 1, the Phillies destroyed Atlanta 7-1, which is kind of surprising. You know, I was thinking Atlanta would give them a better game, but Philadelphia went ahead and bombed them 7-1. NLDS game 1, the Dodgers took on Montreal. This is a game of the year candidate, as Warren Cromartie hit an RBI double to win it in the 10th inning for the Montreal Expos, and they had a 6-5. They got a 6-5 win, and the Expos actually led this series 1-0. The Expos led the series 1-0. So that's interesting there. All right. And then the Tigers, well, the Yankees, the New York Yankees in FastScore dominated. The New York Yankees, an inside pitch in this American League Division Series, folded like a chair. The Tigers go ahead and beat the Yankees 5-4. Tigers get a huge bomb by Kirk Gibson. This was Gibson's first home run. This was in the top of the 10th inning, all right, as Gibson hit one here to give the Tigers a 5-4 win over the Yankees. That's a good game, but I'm gonna say that's a negative. It's still a big game. Then the White Sox go ahead and take care of the Orioles 6-2. The White Sox, Orioles, and Dodgers Expos were Fall Classic. Yankees, Detroit, and Phillies, Braves was inside pitch. ALDS Game 2, the White Sox tie the series up with a 6-2 win. The Braves 1-0 here on Phillies, and they tie that series up. 3-2 victory for the Dodgers of the Expos. They tie that series up. And then the Tigers just destroyed the Yankees here in Game 2 of that ALDS, 14-3. By the way, that's an inside pitch game. So 14-3. Lou Whitaker, double bomb. He had a heck of a game. Whitaker and Trammell owned the postseason, but it was Lance Parrish hitting home runs right and left. One of the reasons why even though, I know I could have given, we'll get there in a little, we'll get there in a while. But 14-3 here, I really didn't see the Yankees coming back from that. Then the White Sox take a 3-1 win here over the Orioles, and now that series is the White Sox now lead 2-1. And then the Phillies and the Braves 3-2, a win for the Phils. And then the Dodgers blow the Expos out 10-5. And the Tigers go ahead and complete the sweep of the New York Yankees 7-3. So the Yankees finished with 106 wins in the postseason. In the regular season, they were the number 1 overall seed. And the wild card champion Detroit Tigers knocked them right out. Well, hey, even though it's a different sport and you go to hockey, how many times does the President's Trophy winner actually win the Stanley Cup? Not many times. And after watching that game between Winnipeg and St. Louis last night, the Winnipeg Jets, they better be ready for their Game 7 tomorrow night. Because I don't know if anybody here watched that, but Hellebuck was awful. And that was something to watch there. I don't know if anybody watched that game last night at all for hockey. So then the White Sox dispatch Baltimore 7-1. So the Chicago White Sox knock out the actual 83 World Series champions. And I actually know about their Clee baseball fan. I actually watched a little bit of that White Sox-Astros game a little bit when I got home. My Mets were already there. Yeah, he's right. Hellebuck has not usually been that good in the postseason. He better be ready tomorrow night or the Blues are going to pull off the upset. But yeah, the White Sox knock out Baltimore, and they move on to the ALCS. The Phillies knock out Atlanta 4-3, and they move on to the NLCS. The Dodgers take care of Montreal 6-4. They move on to the NLCS, and that's what we got. So we have an NLCS of Dodgers and Phillies, and an ALCS of Detroit and the White Sox. The Dodgers won the first game 2-1 over the Phillies. Some very good pitching by Bob Welch. The Phillies-White Sox game would be inside pitch, and I actually did not mark that. So REA and REA. This is inside pitch because I usually put the grades here. All right. Then it was Fall Classic for the Detroit Tigers and the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox shut the Tigers out 2-0. All right. And the White Sox took a 1-0 lead. Then Philadelphia over the Dodgers 2-1. That series is tied. This was a Game of the Year candidate. It went 12 innings until an RBI double by Gary Matthews wins it for the Phillies, and it's a 2-1 victory. Good game, but I'll mark it down there. Then the Tigers go ahead and bomb the White Sox in game number 2, 7-0. Whitaker had a bomb. Whitaker had a home run. So he was good. Trammell doing well here. So that series was tied at 1. Philadelphia wins the next game, game 3, 3-2. for the Phillies. And Detroit wins it 3-2 in Game 3 of the ALCS there. And then Game 4 of the NLCS, the Phillies lead the Dodgers 6. The Dodgers win 6-4, tying that series up at 2. Big time hit here. 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning. Marshall, Russell, and Fimple. We had a lot of injuries. We had a number of injuries in this postseason. Steve Yeager out. Chet Lemon out. Bill Russell out. Parrish missed the game. Dusty Baker was out. We had a few injuries in this postseason. All right. And then we go to this one here. The Chicago White Sox against the Detroit Tigers, Game 4 ALCS. Detroit has a 2-1 lead, a 2-1 lead here. And then we get to the bottom of the 9th inning, and it's a 5-2 lead. The White Sox a chance to tie this series up and go 2-2. The Tigers had 4 errors in this game. They were horrible. All right. And Milt Wilcox got a no decision, and so did Lamar Hoyt. And Barojas comes out to here. And then this happens. Herndon walks. Parrish flies out. Cabell singles. Wilson singles and brings in a run. Brings in a run. All right. Then Lemon flies out. And then comes Kirk Gibson. And that's where I cannot believe the dice actually rolled that way. In order for Gibson to have a home run, he had to roll a 66. And it had to be, I believe, a 1-9 or something because of Barojas's negative home run rating. And Kirk Gibson goes ahead and blasts a 2-run bomb to win the game 6-5 in the bottom of the 9th inning. Heck of a ball game here. The White Sox scored 4 in the 6th, and then the Tigers 4 in the 9th. And if Gibson doesn't make that home run, who knows how this series finishes out? Because it would have been tied 2-2, which meant that there was definitely going to be a return trip to Comiskey Park. They actually wound up with that anyway, though. But still, I'm going to give this 2 check marks. That was ginormous for that. And so right now we got 2 games with the 2 check marks. NLCS was tied 2-2. Dodgers, Phillies 1-0. 14 innings, no score. This is also going to get 2 check marks. I never had a game of inside pitch go 14 innings and nobody scores. Never had that. Nobody wanted to win this game. Nobody wanted to win it. Incredible how this went. 14 innings, nothing until Guerrero gets a double, and then Greg Brock belts him in on a double, and the Dodgers win it 1-0 and take a 3-2 series lead. I definitely give this one 2 check marks. Then ALCS Game 5, the White Sox hold off elimination, and we go back to Comiskey Park 6-1. Then the Dodgers look like the Phillies are going to hold this out. The Dodgers have the Phillies have a 3-0 lead here after 3-1 lead here after 7. And then the Dodgers get 3 in the 8th. All right. On walk, wild pitch, double single, and then 1 in the 9th. Good baseball game for the Dodgers and that would close out the series. The Phillies were trying to force a Game 7. It would not be, and the Dodgers will win it, and they move on. It's a great baseball game, but they're going to move on to the World Series. The White Sox and the Tigers, 1 more game to go, and Detroit holds on to win a 6-2 victory at Comiskey Park, and they move on to the World Series. Then we have our World Series. The Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 1 destroyed the Tigers 12-9. This is Fall Classic. 18 hits for the Dodgers, 10 for the Tigers. But then in game 2, the Tigers give it right back to them, 11-5. Glenn Abbott had an awesome postseason. He would finish with a 4-0-1 postseason record. If I did not have, I can tell you right now, if I did not have a batter worthy of MVP, Glenn Abbott would have been my the second pitcher to receive an MVP at the end of my postseason. The first one, of course, was Roger Nelson from the 1972 Royals that won that World Series. Then the Tigers beat the Dodgers 4-2 in game 3. And then game 4, the Dodgers come right back, make it 8-5, as the series kind of went back and forth. Then game 5, the Tigers. This was a key matchup, the Tigers and the Dodgers holding pat, but a 2-1 victory here for the Tigers allows them to go back to Tiger Stadium, where I'm sure Ben Witz and Chuck Rawlings are still drinking the champagne, as the Detroit Tigers destroyed the Dodgers last night, 11-1, and they win the World Series, and they win the World Series. I gave it to Lance Parrish, the MVP. Whitaker had a 350 batting average with 2 homers. Trammell 344. But if Parrish didn't get this 6th home run, this is it right here, the 6th home run. It gave Parrish 6 bombs. If he didn't get that, very possible I probably would have given my MVP to Whitaker. Although Trammell had 2 home runs and so did Whitaker, but Whitaker would have had, and I did not do Whitaker's, I did at Whitaker's average a little bit more. All right. I would have given the MVP to Whitaker. I can tell you that right now. Trammell would have had a chance. And then Glenn Wilson had an excellent one too. Had a great postseason. All right. Lou Whitaker would have gotten my MVP, but 6 home runs in a short span of games. All right. That's kind of hard to do. So, and he still batted. He finished with a 300 batting average. And when I did the final averages, so I gave it to Lance Parrish. I know you guys didn't have a problem with that. I mean, if he didn't get this home run, it would have been 5 home runs. Whitaker would have gotten my MVP, and I know nobody would have had an issue with giving it to Lou Whitaker. All right, but Lance Parrish, a 300 batting average and 6 bombs. I mean, that I have to give it to. I'd have to give it to Parrish. If the Dodgers had won this World Series, no doubt in my mind, it goes to Guerrero. Guerrero had 5 home runs he finished with. He came into the game batting .339. Pedro Guerrero would have gotten that, no doubt. All right. No, I don't do slugging percentages, Ben. I don't go that far. All I care about is batting average. I don't care about walks. I don't calculate walks. I don't calculate that. Too much crap. So your Detroit Tigers are the 1983 World Series champions, and Lance Parrish is your MVP. Oh, we got a blank sheet here. This is for opening day of the next season. I wonder what that's going to be. It is time to find out. So, 1983, we say goodbye, and you are relegated to the books. Now, let's find out and see what our next season will be, starting July 7th here on the network. We'll bring in the dice tray as the dice tower will tell us what we have. Yes, it is time to roll the bones. Okay. As you all know, this is how I do it. This is how I do it now. The season with the least amount of votes rolls 2 dice. The season in 3rd place rolls 3. The season in 2nd rolls 4, and the season that got the most dice rolls 5. Okay, but when that roll is done, the lowest die of the season with the more dice, okay, is removed. So they're rolling 5 dice. All right, but that's what makes this interesting. You really do not know how this is going to play out. So Let's get our pawns. It is a best of. It is a best of. It is a best of 7. It's a best of 7. Is what it always is of dice rolls. So let's see. Where did the voting go? It is time for the vote. And here we go. In 4th place, and I'm not surprised, 1945. 1945 will roll 2 dice. In 3rd place, 2021, it will roll 3 dice to start with. In 2nd place, 1934, it will roll 4 dice. And getting the most votes for the next season is 1999, and it will roll 5 dice. 1999 and 2021 are definitely going to be Fall Classic and Inside Pitch. 1934 and 1945 do have Fall Classic, but Inside Pitch doesn't have those 2 seasons. If one of those seasons come up, I'm going to ask Chris if he can do one of those seasons. He will have 2 months to do it. I'll ask him if he can do it. And he says he needs the stuff from Retro Sheet. Retro Sheet has all that information he needs. He should be able to do that. Plus, there's only 16 teams in 1945 and 1934. Just an American League and National League. So, it is time to roll the bones, as Ben Witt says. So we start with our first matchup. 2021 versus 1945. 1945 will be red. 2021 will be black. We roll all the dice together. So, July 7th will be the start of the next season on RJL Network. What will it be? 2021 versus 1945. The first season to get to 4 moves on. Ties, however, by the way, if you're wondering about ties, automatically go to the season that got the most votes. That's fair. For 1945, 5 plus 3 is 8. 2021, 2, 4, 6, but you remove a die, and it is 8-4. 1945 wins the first roll. Round 2. 2021 has 16, remove the 4, and that will be 12-6. 2021 wins the second roll. Round 3, removing the 1, 9/8. 1945 now has a 2-1 lead over 2021. Round 4, 1945, 10, and minus the 1 is 8. Wow, 10 versus over 7. 1945 has 3 over 2021. So, 2021 needs to win this one, or 1945 knocks out 2021. Does 1945 do it? No. You remove the 5. That's 11 over 7, and now it's 3-2. 2021 needs another roll. Here is round 6. And let's see. Remove the 1. That's 7 over 6. That's good enough. 1945 will move on. 2021 is eliminated. And we'll go back into the selection cards for the next selection show. So 2021 is gone. Now, 1945 will now roll 3 dice, as we'll go after 1934. So now 1945 becomes black, and 1934 becomes red. So I'll do 19. So here, I'll keep it that way. So 1934 now rolls 4 dice. 1945 will roll 3 dice. So 1934 versus 1945. There goes the best guy. He's a good Jays team. So, 1934 versus 1945. What will happen here? First roll. And I remove the 2. So, 6, 9, 12. 12, 13. 1945 gets the first one. Round 2. Remove the 1. 10, 14, and 4, 8, 13. 1945 rolls 2. They're up 2 games to none. Next one. Remove the 2. Let's see. 1934, 12, 16 over 9. 1934 will get that one. Round 4. Removing the 3. 10, 16 over 4. 1934 ties it up. Now tied at 2. 1934 would be fun. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, come on. 1934 Yankees, 1934 Tigers. There's some legends in that year. Round 5. And removing the 1. So 2, 4, let's see, 6, 8, 11 over 8. And 1934 now has 3. So 1934 needs one more roll to knock off 1945. Round 6. And they'll do that. Nope, 6. So we move the 1. So 6, 11, 13, 12, 16. 1945 holds on. Final roll. Final roll. If it's a tie, 1934 wins because it got more votes. Remove the 2. So 6, 8, 11, 6, 8, 11, 6, 9, 11. It is a tie, but 1934 got more votes than 1945 did. It is a tie. 1934 moves on. So 6, 8, 11, 6, 9, 11. It is a tie. So the tiebreaker kills the Billy Goat, and 1945 goes back into the stack for the next selection show. I'll be honest, I didn't like how I did the selection show this time. I may just go back to the original way I did it, with a little bit of a format change still, but I really didn't like the way I did it the last time. All right. So I'm probably go back to the original way. So now 1999 versus 1934. 1934 will roll 4 dice. 1999 rolls 5 dice. So, what season will we see? 1999 or 1934? 99 or 34. The last time I did this way, the second place team, which was 1983, beat 1990. It does. Everything's going to be fall classic baseball demos, but David. But as far as inside pitch, I may be able to ask Chris to create this season if 34 comes up. If 99 comes up, it's inside pitch and fall classic. If he cannot create the season, by the way, Stratomatic has the 1934 season. They do have that available. I got to figure what I want to do about the extra players, but I may do Strat. Fall Classic one game and Strat the next, possibly. I don't. Replay Baseball has the 1934 season as well. I don't like replay system. As far as now, season ticket baseball, Clay Dreslock, I'd have to ask him to print that. He has 1934. I'd have to ask him to print it for me. I don't want a PDF and print out stuff here. So, 1999, 1934. Let's see what our next season will be. Round 1. Removing the 1. So, let's see. 6, 11, 14, 18. 5, 8, 11, 13. 1999 wins the first roll. No, I'm not doing APA. I will not do APA. All right. I'm not doing APA baseball demos. I will not do APA. Don't worry about that. APA's not. I will not do APA. I'd rather have. I have more fun with Stratomatic than I would with APA. APA's just roll, look at a chart, and that's it. Roll number 2. Removing the 1. 10, 14, 17. 5, 10, 12, 13. 1999 wins the second roll. I don't do APA. As far as Field Day Baseball, it's made by the same company. I'd rather have 2 totally different game engines. I know Field Day Baseball, a lot of people are saying it's a lot of fun, and I'm not knocking it. I've not played it. But I want to stick with 2 different game engines. They're very similar. I don't want to do that. 1999 leads 2-0. Let's go to the third roll. Removing the 1. 4, 8, 10, 11. 3, 6, 8, 10. And 1999 now has 1 more roll to do it. No, we're not doing APA. APA's similar, actually, to Fall Classic. I'm not doing APA. Payoff Pitch does not have 1934 either. I would have done Payoff Pitch if he did. 1999 well, now has a 3-roll lead on 1934. 1999 needs 1 more roll. 1934 needs a miracle. Is 1999 the next season on RJL Network? Removing the 2. 4, 8, 12, 15, 6, 9, 11, 12. It is a clean sweep. 1934 is eliminated. Therefore, the next season on RJL Network will be 1999. $1999 is your season that will start July 7th. Let's take a closer look at the 1999 season. So, in 1999, all right, let's go. Let me just bring this up here. I can't show it to you, but I can't switch the screens. 1999, the World Series that year was the New York Yankees versus the Atlanta Braves. That was the World Series that year. The New York Mets actually made it all the way to the division, got beat by the Braves in the NLCS. So, in the East Division, it was Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays will be contenders. They were 84 and 78. Toronto is a contender. Central Division, Indians, they were the only team that had a winning record in the Central Division. In the West Division, Rangers and Athletics had winning records. The Mariners only finished a few games under that. In the National League East, the Braves the best record. The Mets were in second place. Central Division, Astros and Reds were fighting each other for the Central Division. West Division, the Diamondbacks won that division in the West, but the Giants were pretty good too. They finished 10 games over 500. So that means I'm going back to the 3-division format, which means top 2 teams in each division will make the playoffs. The 3-division winners go immediately into the division series. The 6 will play the 5 in a one gamer, and then the 5 will play the 4 in a one gamer. So top 2 teams each division will make the playoffs. Okay, with the 6th division alignment. Of course, must have winning records in order to make the postseason. Let's see who led. Let's see who are our big time batting champions in 1999. Who led? Let's see here. Come on here, internet. Let's see. Leading the top leaders, Larry Walker had the best batting average in baseball that year. Nomar Garciaparra led the American League. A 25-year-old Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Edgar Martinez, Luis Gonzalez, Bobby Abreu, 27-year-old Man Ram, Vizquel, 27-year-old Pudge. Okay. There were a lot of batters that hit over 300 in 1999. A lot of batters, including a 40-year-old Rickey Henderson. So we go from a 1983 Rickey Henderson to a 1999 Rickey Henderson. So how about that? So those are your top batters, your top pitchers in your top pitchers. Looks like there's some issues here with Baseball Reference, I think. Yeah, there's some issues with it, I believe. Not going to be able to get into there, I think. Let's go to Wikipedia instead. Let's see. Baseball. Your top pitchers in 1999 were such as let's see here. You had Pedro Martinez. He had 23 wins. He also led the majors in ERA with a 2.07 ERA. Pedro Martinez also had 313 strikeouts. Mariano Rivera led with 45 saves. Mike Hampton for the Astros had 22 wins. Randy Johnson, the big unit, had a 2.48 ERA with Arizona 99. He also had 364 strikeouts. Ugueth Urbina led the National League in saves with Montreal with 41 saves. So you have some names that made their final curtain call. I think that was Wade Boggs is last year, I think. I think they did. I think they did here. Let me see here. Let me go back to 99. Now Baseball Reference is back up. Let's see. Who made their debuts, by the way? Hold on. Let's see. Batting, standard batting. Let's see. Age. Let me see here. I got to go to batting. Hold on. Let's see. Standard batting. Let's see. Standard pitching. Baseball Reference has got issues going on right now. Never mind. But there were some big names. You have Mark Langston, Otis Nixon, Wade Boggs, Rowland, who shouldn't. Scott Rowland is the Harold Baines of this time. Darryl Strawberry's last year, yes. Dwight Gooden still pitching, by the way. So 1999, yeah, Strawberry made it to that year. It was his last year. And Dwight Gooden still pitching, by the way, in 99. Remember, he would win another World Series in 2000 with the Yankees over the Mets, as a matter of fact. So 1999 is your next season, and that will start July 7th, and the opening day game for 1999. There was only one game scheduled for opening day, and it was April 4th of 1999. So the opening day game, April 4th, 1999, we will be at Jack Murphy Stadium as the Colorado Rockies will play the San Diego Padres. That's the opening day game. They only had one game on April 4th, and that was it. Darryl Kyle will be pitching for the Rockies, And Andy Ashby will be pitching for the Padres. So we'll get to see Dante Bichette, Todd Helton, Kurt Manwaring, Tony Gwynn, Wally Joyner. That's going to be the opening day game. The Rockies versus the Padres, April 4th, 1999. And that will, of course, be July 7th. No Reds. No Reds. Okay, we don't need no stinking Cincinnati Reds on this channel. The opening day. You know, I only take the top. I only go with the game that was. There was only one game. There was only one game played on April 4th, 1999, which was opening day, and it was the Rockies and the Padres. And that is the game we're going to start with. So, the Rockies and the Padres, April 4th, 1999. How about that? That is our next season here on RJL Network. Programming note, I am going to do a State of the Network address tomorrow night, somewhere between, I may start early because I actually want to watch the hockey game. I may start around 6 or something like that. So, 6, somewhere between 6 and 6:30. So I'm going to do a State of the Network address tomorrow night. You guys can talk to me, talk what you guys thought about the season. If you liked it, what you like to see some change, what changes maybe, we'll talk about that tomorrow night here on the network. So I'll do a State of the Network, okay, with you, me, and that's it. What I also want to do in the off season, I am going to try to get some more hockey on this board, some more Marvel Champions. I want to do some unboxing on my Company of Heroes thing I got here. Maybe some more Arkham Horror, maybe some G.I. Joe. Okay, so I got some stuff I want to do for this offseason that I will stream. I'll do a State of the Network tomorrow, and then I'm probably going to take a week off. I'm probably not going to do any streaming for a whole week, all right, so I can take a break, all right? As I also got to put all my cards away, and now I got to set up Action PC Baseball for 1999, and, of course, get the cards for Inside Pitch and Fall Classic. I have the 1999 season of Inside Pitch. All right. I have to order now the 1999 season for Fall Classic. Not a problem. I got 2 months to get it. So, thank you all for joining me tonight. Please leave a like on your way out the turnstiles. Subscribe if you're not done so, and make sure you hit the bell. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart, stay strong. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. 1999. We're going to party like it's 1999. The Prince season. That is next on the RJL Network starting July 7th. That will be opening day. Rockies and the Padres. Be there or be square.